And it's time for On Point, where we speak to experts to delve deeper into key issues in the spotlight right now. With the Pyeongchang International Peace Film Festival kicking off on Thursday and the Korean action comedy movie The Roundup surpassing 10 million box office tickets sold, it's a great time for movie lovers here in the country.
And to get an expert's take on the film festival as well as the success of the Roundup, we connect with Jae Soh, professor and filmmaker at the Seoul Institute of Arts. Good morning to you, Professor. And
good morning.
Very good morning to you. And well, first off, can you tell us a bit about the Pyeongchang International Peace Film Festival and some of the notable entries in this year's lineup?
Sure. The Pyeongchang International Peace Film Festival is in its fourth year. And yesterday was the opening ceremony, and it will go on for 6 days, ending on June 28th. And this year they have a total of 88 films from 28 countries. That's 42 feature films and 46 short films. And the festival motto this year is "With Cinema." So it's emphasizing the fact that for the last 3 years, they had to deal with a COVID situation. And so basically, they had limited screenings and it was mostly online. But I think what's interesting about this festival is that it started in 2019 with the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. And basically, it's a very special Olympics because it happens in the Gangwon province. And it's a very touristy spot, so there's a lot of outside screenings. And one of the films that I want to kind of talk about is there's the opening film which played yesterday, which is called Olga by a French director named Elie Grappé. And it's about a Ukrainian sort of Olympic gymnast hopeful who's up for a competition. Just in 2013, she's 15 years old, and her mother is a journalist. And basically what happens is the Euromaiden sort of event that happens, where Ukraine was basically demonstrating against its dictatorship at the time. And there are many other sections in here. I would recommend Spectrum K, Pyongyang Cinema. And in Spectrum, there's a section called Navalny, which is actually the international section. And it focuses on the former Russian opposition leader, Alexei Navalny. And it's a documentary about basically how he was poisoned, and he's currently in jail right now. But it's a very special film festival, and there's a lot of outside screenings. And this year, one of the sections that I would like to recommend is a director named Yoon Sung-ho, who's an indie filmmaker who's made a lot of movies, and basically there's a retrospective about his work.
Really incredible, some of these films that are at the festival. But let's go into other movies. The Roundup has certainly been garnering a lot of attention with, of course, Ma Dong-seok, a.k.a. Don Lee. As expected, I mean, the movie was a huge success. I'm sure you've watched the movie yourself. Do you think maybe the lifting of the COVID-19 restriction led to millions of people watching, or was this movie just really well-made movie?
I think to answer your question, all of the above. Basically, I think audiences, it's a really healthy sign that movie theaters are coming back. Many people predicted that the era of the 10 million box office in South Korean cinema would be over. But luckily, I think people were coming back because the COVID restrictions have been lifted. And I personally think, I actually, throughout the whole COVID situation, the movie theaters were open at 50% capacity. But one of the reasons I think most people are coming back is because, you could actually have popcorn and, drinks during the movie, which was prohibited during the COVID era. But again, the movie Roundup is a sort of the sequel to Outlaws, which happened, a couple of years ago. And the movie is just a fantastic cop chasing the bad guy. And one of I think the special things about this movie is that it starts in Vietnam. So it's following this kind of Korean killer, serial killer type person who it's based on kind of a real event that happened, unfortunately, in the Philippines, where a lot of Korean tourists were kidnapped. So it's a combination of just terrific action. It's very comical, and a lot of the same cast is coming back. So I think one of the things I really like about it is the fact that, audiences, when they're coming back, they want to see something familiar. There's another movie called Witch, The Witch 2, which is a sequel, and that's doing really well at the cinema as well.
Well, of course, and as you said, the caramel popcorn and the buttery squid very quintessentially Korean movie-going experience that's vital to cinemas coming back. And well, what's interesting is that despite Koreans and their love for movies, the Roundup was just the 20th domestic film to surpass 10 million viewers. So what's the significance of this 10 million milestone, and why is it so difficult to reach that mark?
Well, we're only a country with a population of like around approximately 50 million. So to sell 10 million tickets, it's doesn't really happen anywhere else in the world, I guess, except for Hollywood. But I think to have basically 20% of the population go see one movie is really an event. That's why it's so special. But I think this time having a 10 million at over 10 million, right now it's at 11 million, 11.7 million at the box office, is because for a while the cinema, nobody was going to see movies because of the COVID restrictions. So this particular, landmark is very special because it's a healthy sign that people are kind of come back to cinema, sit there, watch a movie together with a lot of people instead of just watching it on Netflix.
Speaking of Netflix, let's talk about a show that was certainly very popular, Squid Game, right? Its director Ma Dong-seok announcing that the popular South Korean drama is going to return for season 2. I mean, do you think the second season will be as successful as the first one?
Well, I hope so. The first one was just something that came out of left field. Nobody really expected this show, Squid Game, to be this popular. But I think Ma Dong-seok said it really well. He said it took 12 years for him to make this series, but it took 12 days to become the #1 hit. In 94 countries, it's been translated to so many different languages. And Netflix has been around for a while, but, this South Korean content is now #1 in the world. And I think what's really special about it is that for a budget of about $21.7 million, they were able to make 9 episodes of very high quality content. And if you look at a show like Bridgerton or The Crown, the budget for each episode is around, well over 10 million, 15, going towards 20. So I think this time around, I'm really looking forward to everybody getting paid better and having higher production values. But I think for what the first movie did, I think it's going to be kind of a tough challenge to overcome because, once you have something so big, can you repeat it is the big thing. But I think right now, the Squid Game ending, I don't want to give spoilers away, but it ended with sort of maybe what's going to happen next. So a lot of the same actors are coming back. Lee Byung-hun's coming back. Lee Jung-jae is coming back. So this Squid Game, which is basically like, basically a story about society. It's a social commentary about the classes. I think it's a very universal theme thing, and everybody seems to be really excited about it. In fact, the fact that Netflix's stocks went up the day they basically released the statement saying that the Squid Game 2 will be going into production.
Well, thanks very much for your insights today, Professor. We hope we can connect with you again.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.